This is a Tracking the Tropics update with the certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
Good evening, folks. I am meteorologist Ross Mumal here. An update on the forecast tonight over the next couple of days, and of course the latest on our potential tropical disturbance that could be right over Florida, bringing us even more rain and thunderstorm chances here through the end of the week and even into your holiday weekend. But to start off, let's just take a look at what's going on out there in the atmosphere right now. We had plenty of thunderstorms just to the west of the metro through most of this evening, some of which eventually then moved to the east and northeast, pushing offshore here now. You can kind of see some of those firing up earlier today. Some more storms down across South Florida, a little bit of a complex in the north central portion of the Gulf. And then we have this upper level low we've talked about for about the last 4 or 5 days, continuing to just kind of give a nice little swirl just off to our east coast. This won't be impacting us at all. It'll end up pushing off to the northeast as well. But overall, most of us are going to continue to see pretty dry Tuesday night here for you across the First Coast. A few lingering showers up across coastal Nassau County and southeastern Camden County. And then we do just have a couple isolated heavy downpours making their way up from Marion into southern Alachua County down towards Gainesville. Keystone Heights, could see a little bit of some rain. And similar story in central Bradford, just 1 or 2 little pop-up showers making their way through. Otherwise, dry skies out there for the rest of the night. We do still have some cloud cover overhead, but generally speaking, shouldn't be too concerned about anything. Now, for folks who did get a little bit more rainfall today, a good example of that's going to be the Jacksonville Airport down to 79 degrees, whereas over at Mayport, significantly warmer, still 88. So a wide variety of temperatures out the door here this evening. If you are just either heading out for the night or perhaps coming in from dinner, still a pretty warm evening for a lot of folks. But here's kind of what we're looking at in the tropics. This is the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Barry, continuing to bring some nice beneficial rainfall to the southern part of Texas there. Otherwise, the Bahamas, Cuba, nothing too worrisome there. Down into the really western or southwestern portion of the Caribbean. Some thunderstorm activity, but not a whole lot there either. So really, we're going to have to look much further off to our west in the eastern Pacific. Now, the 6th named storm in the eastern Pacific basin here in this 2025 hurricane season. Hurricane Flossie, interesting name. Category 2 storm, sustained winds of about 110 miles per hour. So this is pretty much taking a very similar track to a lot of the storms those folks just to the west of or in western Mexico have seen really over about the last month or so. So this is going to continue to move off to the northwest, eventually begin to weaken and dissipate just to the west of Baja California there by the end of the week and the start of the weekend. Now, latest from the National Hurricane Center, now a medium percent chance or a medium chance of formation here over the next 7 days. So it does look like they maybe shrank it down a little bit on the eastern side of this and have extended it a little bit further northward. So it does appear a little bit more likely that if something would happen to develop, it would either be right over Florida and then extend northeastward over the Gulf Stream and likely away from the First Coast. So now a medium chance of formation over the next 7 days, particularly by Friday and into this coming weekend. So that is the latest from the National Hurricane Center here as of 8 o'clock. So more on that in a second. Let's just break down your Tuesday forecast tomorrow. Starting the morning off, mid to upper 70s, quickly warming into the upper 80s, if not very, very close to 90 degrees, depending on where you live at, around Duval County and most of the Jacksonville area. And then really after lunchtime, or shortly after lunchtime even, and then through the entirety of your afternoon and evening hours, we are expecting scattered to, if not widespread, rain and thunderstorm chances here across the First Coast. So I-75 might be the driest spot here, but generally speaking, I think all of us have anywhere from about a 70 to 90% chance for rain and thunderstorms throughout the day tomorrow. So time it out here. 12:30, you're already starting to see some pop-up showers and thunderstorms trying to develop, not only over by the Gulf Coast, which is where we're expecting it. A lot of convection can start out towards the Gulf and I-75 and then spread its way eastward, but even closer to 95. So Putnam, St. Johns County, you could be seeing some rain and thunderstorms as early as 12, even 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Much more in coverage. So we don't really look at the models and try to say, okay, exactly at 5 o'clock, it's going to be raining in northern Columbia County or in Folkston. Really just trying to give you an overall look at the potential timing and overall coverage of those thunderstorms. So clearly plenty of rain there in the forecast. This continues through the 5 and 6 o'clock hours, even 7 o'clock still. Some strong thunderstorms possibly along the 95 corridor and coastal areas. So if you've missed out on rain the last couple of days, I'm not sure if you have because we've seen a decent amount of rain. But if you have a very good chance to see some heavy downpours tomorrow. Rainfall rates could be quite high, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches per hour with some of those heavier downpours. So the precipitable water content is over 2 inches throughout much of the day tomorrow, really just saying the excessive rainfall risk is going to be a bit higher than we have seen over the past several days. So because of that, Weather Prediction Center does have the entirety of the First Coast in that level 1 out of 4 marginal risk for excessive rainfall. So localized flooding, flood advisories, flash flood warnings could all be on the table tomorrow, depending on where some of those heavier downpours and thunderstorms do set up. Do they go over locations like San Marco, for example, that has now seen flooding for about the last 2 days? Could be another possibility tomorrow. Now, you look a little bit further off to the south and southwest, the Tampa Bay area, they're included in that slight risk for excessive rainfall. So that's really going to be the trend through the end of the week and into the weekend. The Gulf Coast is going to have a much better chance to see some higher rainfall totals than we will here in Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia. But nonetheless, tomorrow likely going to be the stormiest and rainiest of the next several days. But still, Thursday and your 4th of July on Friday, we're talking 60, 70% coverage for rain and thunderstorms and potentially continuing then into the weekend. But specifically for your Wednesday tomorrow and then through the rest of the week, we are issuing weather impact alerts for the widespread storm chances because of those heavier downpours. Localized flooding still going to be a concern, along with just the overall lightning risk that is always associated with some of the thunderstorms here in Florida, especially during this time of the year. So heavy rain expected across a large portion of the First Coast for your Wednesday. Thursday, not a whole lot of a change. As I had mentioned, scattered to widespread storms still expected. And a lot of this is stemming from really 2 separate things. First of which, we're going to have decently strong southwesterly flow continuing to pump in tons of moisture out of the northern Gulf. And then you have this cold front that, although it is weakening, it's coming in from the north. There's going to be plenty of moisture along that as well. So it's really just kind of squeezing all the moisture right over top of Jacksonville and the First Coast here throughout much of Wednesday and even into some of Thursday. So that's kind of why we're expecting, an enhancement in overall coverage and rain totals for at least the next 2 days. Now, as you head towards Friday, that front eventually pushes a little bit further south, and we are expecting it to stall out. So it turns from a cold front to a stationary front, likely over central Florida or the I-4 corridor. And this is really just going to act as a focal point or a convergence zone for some potential, spinning or circulation. And you can kind of see it here in the wind. So the winds on the northern extent of the front, much more out of the northeast. The winds on the southern extent going to be more out of the south or southwest. So you already start to get just a little bit of not only a kink in the stationary front, but could begin to see a surface low pressure system begin to rotate counterclockwise here. So some models are trying to show this. You can see a little bit of that in the Futurecast reflectivity, so the rainfall here, and also just in the overall wind flow and pattern, trying to show that potential surface low developing. Hence why the National Hurricane Center now has this as a medium chance of formation through the end of the week and continuing into the weekend. Here is another way to look at it. Very moist air is obviously in the dark green. Drier air is in the yellows and those orange, even kind of burgundy reddish colors here. By Friday, that front has already moved through. It's pushed further to the south. Some models are trying to show this kind of narrow band or nose of some drier air trying to sneak in thanks to some more northerly and northeasterly winds by Friday evening and even into the start of the coming weekend. That drier air, especially in the mid-levels, could lower our rain chances just a bit. Might be some good news for any 4th of July fireworks plans you might have, or even for Saturday. So yeah, 10 o'clock Saturday evening, still some pretty dry air in place. It looks like the most likely chance of something developing would start over the peninsula and then gradually make its way off to our east and northeast. You can kind of see that with the moisture flow here. So a lot of it gets taken up closer to the Carolina coastline, but nonetheless, by the end of the weekend, still begins to wrap in some more moisture. So although we might have some extra dry time for your 4th of July, especially during the evening hours for fireworks, that doesn't mean we still couldn't get some more enhanced rainfall and storm coverage and activity through Saturday and through Sunday. So you just got to remember the forecast remains fluid. None of this is set in stone here just yet. We're still a little bit too far out. But one thing that might inhibit it just a hair is going to be the overall wind shear. So the contours here, those kind of bluish into the yellow colors, that is the overall wind shear within the atmosphere. Then these wind stream lines, or the wind barbs, that is showing the upper level jet stream at about 30 to 40,000 feet. So this is Friday evening. It's pretty strong jet coming through. Wind shear relatively low, but it does increase as you head into Saturday. So some decent wind shear right over Northeast Florida. And of course, wind shear is not conducive to any sort of tropical development. So might just be too much shear for the overall system to try to, get its act together at all. And then you'll notice by Sunday, the worst of the shear and that overall strongest flow is just off to our west. Big area out here, though, to our east and northeast, not nearly as much one shear or overall flow within the jet stream. Could be a little bit more conducive for any possible, tropical development over here, over the Gulf Stream, where the waters are a bit warmer as well. So that is another reason why, one, I just shown we're kind of expecting the system, if it develops, to drift further off to the northeast. And then you tie in the warmer ocean waters over the Gulf Stream out here, and the lack of a wind shear could be a better spot for that system to possibly try to get some extra juice and organization by the end of the weekend. Take notice, that's going to be Sunday evening. You can see a pretty nice upper level low over the Gulf and over the southern part of New Orleans there in the bayou, but kind of just an open space out here could be a good spot for any storm systems to try to develop. So let's take it back a little bit. I'll just kind of recount or reiterate what you can expect for at least your Wednesday and into your Thursday as well. So after lunchtime tomorrow, we are expecting scattered, if not widespread, thunderstorms through the afternoon into the evening hours. Some of these could be torrential rain. So if you're going to be out on the roads and all, going to or from home or work, take it slower out on the roadways. Ponding is very likely. And of course, that localized flooding threat will continue to be a concern through your Wednesday and then also into your Thursday as well, as more rain chances continue to stay in the forecast. Now, as we transition into Friday, the wind direction is going to change a little bit, not only at the surface, but also aloft in the atmosphere, a little bit more out of the northeast. So it might bring in a few isolated rain chances initially during the early afternoon on Friday, but it does seem like it's going to start to push more of those thunderstorms a little bit further westward, just a bit, by Wednesday or by Friday evening, excuse me. So that could lead to some drier time for us for your Friday firework plans if you do happen to have any. So here's another way to look at it, the overall steering flow. So we're no longer at the surface. We're going to be anywhere from about 1,000 to 5,000 feet aloft. You take notice Thursday, winds still generally out of the west or northwest here a little bit. So that could steer any thunderstorms that develop still over towards the coast. But then we transition from Thursday to Friday. You can see the overall circulation here. It's a very broad area, but nonetheless, it's going to bring in more of northeasterly winds by Friday. So any storms that develop initially will move from the northeast to the southwest, more than likely and hopefully keeping us a little bit drier on both Friday and potentially into Saturday as well. A very similar setup. Sunday, those winds begin to weaken a little bit. The upper level moisture also swings back in, could up our rain chances. So here is a look at your 4th of July weekend forecast. 70% chance of rain on Friday. We might have to dial that back. Again, the forecast remains fluid. We'll continue to update it and keep it as accurate as possible here for you. Saturday and Sunday, though, temperatures upper 80s. It's going to be breezy.